Good morning, everybody. I hope you all have a lovely Sunday today. The sun is shining bright, so hopefully across the UK you all have a good, lovely Sunday morning, whatever you do. And even if you have to go to work today, I hope that you get to enjoy the sun somehow. Anyway, today's video is going to be about Windrush, because it was the 70th anniversary on Friday of the Windrush. Yes, 70 years. Can you believe it? 70 years since Empire Windrush docked in Tilbury in London. Now, the ship, the Empire Windrush, the ship, it travelled from Australia, then it docked in Jamaica to pick up some more passengers, and then it set sail again, and then on the 22nd of June 1948 it landed in Tilbury. Now, this ship carried 807 immigrants, and the reason why the ship went out to pick up these immigrants was simply because after World War II, a lot of the British men who went to war, they died during the war. So there was a limitation of men who could build back up the country to how it was. You know, they call it Great Britain. So basically what happened was the British people, they was like, what do we do? So they put a load of advertisements on TV, and especially in the Caribbean, because at that time, you know, there was still colonies. So in the Caribbean, they put a load of advertisements on television saying, you know, we need you to come and build up the country. And also because it's also the 70th anniversary of the NHS. So, you know, they also called for women to come and help build up the NHS. So, you know, they all came on the ship, and that is basically the start of Britain as we know it, being children of the Windrush, or whether our grandparents or parents came later. So, and also what the British government did is they created the, let's see, where is it now? They also created the British Nationality Act in 1948, which was commenced the 1st of January 1949, and when it was commenced, that means everybody from these colonies who came over to the motherland, they were essentially British citizens. So it's not like they weren't actually British citizens, they were. So you see, with all this Windrush scandal, it's not like some of them who actually came over during the Windrush weren't actually citizens, they already were. The only thing is, because the British Nationality Act was gotten rid of, that is when the trouble started, because, you know, they changed the law in the 1980s, so you had to reapply for your citizenship. They changed the law to say that, I'm trying to remember when it changed it to now. I think they changed the law to where you didn't have automatic citizenship. But once I remember what exactly it is, I will mention it in the video. Okay, so they still have the British Nationality Act. They updated it in 1981, and they changed a load of things. So if you was already a citizen, you had to reapply for citizenship, and this is why a lot of people got into trouble. But anyway, as I was saying, and that's why a lot of people don't know about the British Nationality Act. So that is why I'm letting you know. Basically, they came to this country, originally it was mainly people from Jamaica who came over here to help build up the NHS and to help build up the country after World War II. So, you know, and they came over here and they had to deal with a load of racism. I mean, you think they were told that these great things about this country, that it was, you know, that it was amazing. You need to come over here to work. You will have a better chance of life. And so, you know, they came, they applied, they came over to this country, and then when they stepped off the plane, they were shocked because the Britain that they was told about was not what they saw. And then some of the people who came over, they did not originally tend to spend the rest of their lives in this country. They said, you know what, I'm going to work here for a few years and then go back over. But you must understand that because when they were working, they weren't earning that much money. So even if they originally wanted to go back home, not a lot of them were not able to, because you're thinking about it, they were having to work long hours for small amounts of pay. Some of that money they would send back home, because some of them left their children back in the Caribbean countries. So if you're working long hours, you're not getting much pay, and you're having to send money back to your family who was taking care of your children, unless you brought your children over to this country at the time, then how are you supposed to save so you can return back home? And to tell you the truth, some of them did go back home to live permanently, but a lot of them decided to stay here and settle permanently. The only problem with that is some of them may not have had the option to have settled here permanently. They just did not have a choice, because they simply could not afford to go back home. And at that time, there was not a lot of jobs in the Caribbean either. So for them to come over here to working with, you can see the desperation that they was going through. And another thing that disappoints me is it is only now that the government is deciding to make the 22nd of June each year be a day to celebrate the Windrush generation. But why did you not do this before? Why did you not understand the huge significance of this event in history, not just British history but Caribbean history also? Why did you only now, after the Windrush scandal that broke back in April? And yeah, we all know that people were being deported from years and years and years ago, and people are still being deported today. And the funny thing is, the government still has not released the official figures of the number of people who have actually been deported back to the countries in the Caribbean. Let me take a breath. They've not released the official figures. So it's like, what is the point of having this massive Windrush Day and yet people are still being deported? You're basically saying, yes, you've come to this country because we need you, because after World War II, the country was basically a mess. We also have the NHS, and the NHS was basically faltering. If it was not for the black nurses from the Caribbean and Africa building up the NHS, it would have fallen down on its frigging knees. But they don't want to give no compensation for the people who actually helped to build it up. They don't want to give compensation to the people who built up friggin' England, Britain, whatever. I mean, think about it. A lot of the buildings that were built in this country were built during slavery, and then a lot more of the buildings were built during the Windrush era. And you see, the significance of that is basically immigration was what built this country up. So when a lot of white people are sitting here telling us to go back home, like, you know what? Yes, I would love to go back to the Caribbean, but also I have a place here in the UK. And you're not going to deny me that, because it was my ancestors who helped build up this country, whereas you're there on frigging benefits, not even helping anybody. So what the fuck are you doing? How the fuck can they take a job away that you don't even have? How the fuck can they take a job away that you don't even have? It's just the irrational nonsense that they come out with. And let's think about it now. The Windrush generation came over to this country, helped build it up, and you also saw how they brought in their traditions as well. You know, like seasoning their food, regular hygiene as well. Because let's keep it real, black people and their hygiene. Yeah, I'm gonna say black people and their hygiene. So we as a culture need to show more respect for what our ancestors and our grandparents did for this country. That is what we need to be doing. And I don't ever expect white people to show respect for what they did. Now, when I say white people, I'm talking about the government, because it took them 70 fucking years to say, oh yeah, we're going to acknowledge the Windrush generation. And the only reason they're doing this is to placate the people, because of the Windrush scandal still going on. And actually, people who came after the Windrush are also being deported. If you imagine, so you come to this country in, say, like the 70s. You've been here since you was like 4 years old, and then they tell you you have to leave to go back to a Caribbean country which you may not know about. I mean, you may have gone there on holiday, or you may have never have been back. Now that is one thing I do not understand, this not going back, not even for a holiday. The thing is, you have to remember, because the British government sent for so many immigrants from these Caribbean countries to come to Britain to help build Britain up, it basically left the Caribbean in trouble, because you're taking talented people out of these friggin' Caribbean countries that had the knowledge and the skills to build it up. But no, Britain get there first, and then now you're seeing the backlog. And this is the thing, people think, oh yeah, it's just like a 1 or 2 year thing. No, it's years and years and years of the countries not being built up, and then you see they basically get depleted and depleted and depleted. And it's madness. We focus on Britain. We need to be more focused on where we come from, to be honest. What about these Caribbean countries? What about them? They need help now. Britain is built up. Well, I say that. The NHS looks like it's about to crumble again, but you know what? What did you expect? And also this is interesting, which I've just read now. It's interesting, it says here, in June 1948, after the Empire Windrush arrived, 11 Labour members to Clement Attlee complaining about excessive immigration. Now, isn't that funny? The same Labour government that is campaigning for the Windrush to be recognised, and for these deportations to stop, were the same ones who was complaining about the immigration back in 1948. And that is who we are voting for, Labour. It's funny because we always talk about the Conservative government being racist, but the truth is, we know that the Labour government has a history of racism themselves. They've not always been, you know, the principled people that we know them as today. And see, also says here as well, there was plenty of work in post-war Britain and industries such as British Rail, the National Health Service, which I mentioned, and public transport. And public transport recruited almost exclusively from Jamaica and Barbados. That's why even today you see a lot of Jamaicans and Bajans running the buses, because that's where they stay. And big up to them anyway, because trust me, I personally think that, you know, bus drivers, they have to deal with a lot, to be fair. So, you know. And another thing to remember as well is when, like I said, going back to my earlier point, a lot of the Caribbean people who came over to this country had to deal with a heck load of racism. I mean, they would spray things like "Keep Britain White" on black people's front doors. I mean, imagine you come to this country to help build up the NHS, the British Rail, the bus service, You are working. There is a load of work available for you to do, and these white people are not understanding this, why you are coming into this country, why you are here. There's not enough British men left to build up the country, and you come over here to this country. It's a foreign country. You're far away from what you know, your culture. You're far away from your family, possibly your kids. You come out to this country and you have white people racially abusing you constantly, day after day after day after day after day. And this built up, this angst against white people, against the black people, this built up until there was actually some race riots. I mean, it even says it here. Early African Caribbean immigrants found private employment and housing denied to them on the basis of race. And this is actually, to be fair, this still happens today, unfortunately. People are still discriminated against based on race and denied jobs and housing, and people don't want to talk about this, but it still happens today. So I'm gonna keep talking about it, because yeah, it is still going on today. Trade unions would often not help African Caribbean workers, and some pubs, clubs, dance halls and churches would bar black people from entering. Housing was in short supply following the wartime bombing, and the shortage led to some of the first clashes with the established white community. Clashes continued and worsened into the 1950s, and riots erupted in cities including London, Birmingham and Nottingham. In 1958, attacks in the London area of Notting Hill by white youths marred relations with West Indian residents, and the following year, as a positive response by the Caribbean community, an indoor carnival event organised by West Indian Gazette editor Claudia Jones took place in Pancras Town Hall and would be a precursor to what became the annual Notting Hill Carnival. Some of the racism and intolerance was stoked by explicitly fascist or anti-immigration movements, including Oswald Mosley's Union Movement, the League of Empire Loyalists, the White Defence League, the National Labour Party and others. Do you see all they had to go through to come over to this country, to help build up this country, and they don't get no respect for it? It had to do with racial abuse, discrimination, denied housing. But the government then has to freaking cheat to say, oh, you need to go back home now. That's what they're saying, you need to go back home now. The fucking cheek. It's just something that I'm very, very passionate about. So I had to do this quick little video to talk about it. But yes, remember, 70 years is a very long time. And some of them are still alive today. And you can talk to them about what they had to go through. You can still talk to them about what they went through. Talk to your grandparents. If you're from the Caribbean, talk to your grandparents about it, because trust me, they got tales. They got tales anyway. We need to let their stories be heard. You don't ever want that generation to die off without their tales, their knowledge, their intelligence dying off with them. Because the further we come into British society, we are going to lose our roots. And this is why I said before, I'm very, very passionate about British-born West Indians having their citizenship in these countries, and also building up these countries. Even if you don't want to move there permanently, you don't have to. You can buy a plot of land if you have the money to do so, build a house on it and rent it out. And that way you're helping people over there. Because if you think about it, you're gonna need someone who's an estate agent or a realtor, as to call them, over there. And people who maybe looking for a house, they probably can't afford a house that's already built. So like if you're building one, they might be able to move into that one, and obviously they're gonna pay you rent or whatever anyway, and you're still helping the economy. So there are always options. So don't ever be discouraged. If you want to do something, you can do it. I mean, this Windrush situation should tell you that whatever you want to achieve in life, you can do it. Now, as to the government, you need to show some damn respect. This one day is not enough. I know you ain't gonna apologize. I know you're not going to apologize. But don't think that this one bloody day is enough, and inviting people to the White House for freaking tea and crumpets or whatever the fuck you invited them there for. I mean, what was even the arsehole point? What was the point? But you know what? This video is over and done with. It's me, Skin Going Afro. Don't forget to leave a like, comment and subscribe if you enjoyed the video, and let's get a discussion started about this situation. All right, so what do you think about Windrush 17, and what do you think can be done to move us forward? All right, bye.